Week number 2 is coming in hot just around the corner. Our job today is to get you set for week number 2 of daily fantasy football, running through a snake draft live on air and letting you know our thoughts on Sunday's slate. This is the FanDuel Live Q&A right here on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter channels. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, joined here as always by Brandon Gdula and JJ Zachariason. JJ, 1-0 to open up the snake draft here. JJ, of course, the editor-in-chief of numberFire and FanDuel. JJ, you have a commanding, insurmountable 1-0 lead. How are you doing entering week number 2?
You know, I was thinking about it. I think the reason I won last week was because I went with Mixon towards the end. Remember, I was like debating if I should go Mixon or like Justin Jefferson or someone like that, and then I played it a little bit safe, and I went for Mixon. So thank you, Joe Mixon. I appreciate the W.
I don't. I was pretty mad. I think I had Mahomes and Tyreek Hill in that one. You had Kyler and Nuke, I think. Yeah. And I could overcome whatever the rest happened. I think I had something terrible in there. So I was insurmountable for sure. Let's talk to Brandon Gdula, managing editor of numberFire.com. Brandon, we got a hole to climb out of. What is your strategy to defeat JJ this week?
Draft the good players and avoid the bad players for this week, which was not my strategy last week, apparently, because I finished comfortably or uncomfortably in third. I had Josh Allen. I think I had Derrick Henry. It was not a fun snake draft.
Not fun for you. It was fun for JJ. So, we're on to week 2 and seeing how things play out here. We're going to go through a live snake draft on air. And then after that, we're going to take your questions on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages, talking about week number 2. So if you got questions, feel free to toss them in now. We'll get to those after the snake draft. Also at 4:30 today, 4:30 Eastern, we're going to have our regular MLB DFS Q&A for a really fun 15-game slate. So if you're here to watch the MLB DFS Q&A, stick around till 4:30. We'll transition to that then. Now, before we go through our snake draft for this week, the main injury news for today is that Josh Jacobs is not going to play in week number 2 due to the thousands of injuries he has sustained in the first couple weeks of the year. Brandon, we talked in passing about Jacobs and what the situation would allow for Kenyan Drake if Jacobs were to sit. Now it's official. Jacobs will not go. So from a DFS perspective, Brandon, what is your vibe on Kenyan Drake this week at $5,500 on FanDuel?
Yeah, I was going to say it's $5,500, which is a really nice salary for a running back. The issue is that this isn't like week 8 where we have no value at running back. We have Najee Harris at $6,100. We've got a few other guys. Darrell Henderson's down there. And we have value at receiver. We don't really have to go force in Kenyan Drake. And I mean, you have to kind of have some pause whenever John Gruden says that, oh yeah, we like Kenyan Drake, but we like Peyton Barber too.
But he says like that about Nathan Peterman. That part I'm not worried about. I think it's like the offense and the situation that worries me more.
Well, there's that I didn't even get into, but
yeah.
I mean, in season long, if you need running back and you pick up Kenyan Drake, that's great. But for me, the path for him just destroying me for not using him seems pretty narrow. So I'm kind of out on Drake.
We talked about this last week in the heat check, where looking at the thresholds you need for a value running back to be in the perfect lineup, and you need 20 points. And like Kenyan Drake getting to 20 points in this matchup where they are flying across the country, facing a really good defense. And we don't really know if he'll get the goal line work. The path to 20 is pretty tough, but JJ in season long is different. You don't need 20 points for a guy to be viable. And there are people out there who will need Kenyan Drake this week. So how are you viewing him this week? What kind of tier do we have Kenyan Drake in entering week 2 with no Josh Jacobs?
Probably like a low end RB2 this week. If you're in a PPR league, maybe boost him a tiny bit. I think that what we're looking at with Pittsburgh, if you looked at the line movement in that game, it's favored Pittsburgh more and more. There should be a negative game script for Vegas, hypothetically speaking, of course. And if that happens, that's not terrible for Kenyan Drake because he's going to be the primary pass catcher out of the backfield. He had like a 9 to 10% target share in week 1. That was with the mostly healthy Josh Jacobs. I know that he wasn't like 100% entering the game, and then he didn't play the full game, but Drake should see probably, I would guess that he's going to see like maybe 12 to 13, 14% of the team's targets. The problem I have is obviously, the matchup isn't great. And then on top of that, we just have a coaching staff that it's not necessarily the most rational in the league or the best in the league. So, it wouldn't shock me. And I know John, like you mentioned, Jim, John Gruden came out and he said that Peyton Barber is going to be boosted from this and used a little bit more. I think he's probably saying that partially because Kenyan Drake was going to have a role regardless, right?
Yeah.
Like Kenyan Drake was going to be playing anyway. But now with this news, then Peyton Barber, who wasn't going to see anything, is now going to see a lot of work. So Peyton Barber probably see 10 to 12 touches, but Kenyan Drake is still the one because he's going to see the more valuable touches through the air in what could be a negative game script.
Yeah, so low end RB2, JJ says on Kenyan Drake. Mo on Facebook says he's not even getting 12 points. So no Kenyan Drake from Mo this week. Okay, we're going to get to more questions later on, but let's do the snake draft. And JJ, you are the last one to enter here. So we'll get you entered and then we'll light this puppy up and see if I can get a win here for week number 2.
Let's do it. I am in the 101 spot this week.
Okay, I'm picking second. So JJ, I assume Kenyan Drake at 1.01, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I will be going Christian McCaffrey once this draft starts. Kind of difficult to shy away from a guy who was the RB1 last week in PPR. I know this is more season long focus, but RB1 in PPR formats without scoring a touchdown.
It's wild.
Does not happen very often. He almost had 100 and 100 receiving yards and 100 rushing yards. It's just hard to not draft him. I feel like as long as he's healthy, he's going to go 101 in these drafts every single week that we do it.
It would need to be a pretty extreme situation for him to not go 101, I would think. Like, they do have Tampa Bay on the schedule, obviously, because it's the NFC South and stuff like that. But I feel like even then, like, Dalvin would need to be in like a home run situation for me to take Dalvin over McCaffrey. Okay, so 3 seconds, and then we're going to start this puppy. And JJ is on the clock for our week 2 snake draft. He goes McCaffrey. I'm going to go Dalvin. I think that it's pretty tight between Dalvin and Alvin, which is tough to say, but I think I can feel decently comfortable because I like the game a lot for Dalvin Cook. I feel like that game is decently likely to shoot out. So I feel good about Dalvin there. Brandon, you've got 3 and 4. What are you looking at there?
Yeah, I mean, Kamara's not someone I'm huge on from a straight up salary cap standpoint for this week. But I'm going to go him. And then from there, it opens up. I think Nick Chubb's in the conversation, which I know Jim's not on board with, but I just think that there's a really high floor for him. I think the ceiling's capped based on the game script, which Jim and I talked about on the heat check this week. You want tighter games. We get that with the Cowboys and Chargers. So I'm looking at Amari Cooper, but I think I'm probably going to just go with the volume of DeAndre Hopkins here.
Okay. I thought Hopkins was the 4th pick. So I agree. I think that was probably where I would have gone there as well. So I've got Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Chris Carson, Monty, Eckler. I've got some other guys I could consider.
Montgomery.
There we go.
Got Joe Mixon down there. Kind of tempted by that.
I have no idea who I'm picking right now for the record.
I'm going to go Derrick Henry. He had 4 targets last week. I feel like they'll be more competitive this week. Maybe that's stupid to go Henry over Chubb given the disparate situations there. But again, I just like that game more for Henry than I like it for Chubb.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Chubb with my first one, but I want to save some time because I have no idea what I'm gonna do.
That's what I did with Kamara.
Yeah. So I will go Nick Chubb here before time runs out.
Okay.
I'm looking wide receiver. I think I'm gonna just go. Oh man, I really want to. Part of me really wants to go. I might just go with the game that I like the most here and go a little bit off script. I think Diggs is the chalk as the next pick, maybe.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go to Amari Cooper because I like that game so much.
Okay. So he's going to Amari Cooper, which means I can look over here. Diggs, Ridley, DK, Keenan. Okay. I think there's a lot of decent wide receivers I like. So bleep it. We're going Kyler. Taking Kyler Murray.
That's what I did last week, and it ended up working out.
Yeah, I'm not going to get the stack with Nuke, which is kind of annoying, but I just think that the fall off at wide receiver was not that great. So I feel okay with the guy I'm going to get with my next pick. So I'm actually feel okay with getting Kyler there.
Yeah, I was hoping for that stack here. I'm going to go with, I think, a great shot to lead the slate and receiver fantasy points, and that's Keenan Allen.
Okay.
Brandon.
That gets me access to some game stack potential. I think it's a bit early for CeeDee Lamb, even though I love him. I think I'm going to go a bit. I mean, I don't need to go 3 receivers here, though, but I don't love any running backs enough. So I'm gonna take. Nah, I'm gonna go just with the best value, I think, and go with Stephon Diggs here.
I was going to take Diggs there. Was going to feel pretty good about it. Now I no longer feel good about it. Thank you. So I can go DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. I feel great about all those guys, honestly. No real objections. I've got Derrick Henry, so let's go with DK Metcalf for the game stack there. I think Lockett could have been a consideration as well.
I'm gonna stack the chalky game this week, and I will go with Dak to go along with Amari, and I am going to go with Austin
Mike
Eckler.
Williams. Oh,
Jared Cook.
I'll go Austin Eckler as my next one.
Okay, so I can go with the other. I could just go full stack of the Tennessee-Seattle game, or I could go with Justin Jefferson to go with Dalvin and Kyler. Which game do I want to stack more? Let's go with Justin Jefferson. Feel pretty good about him this week. Feel pretty good about starting him in my fantasy football leagues as well. Brandon, you're up for 2 now.
I kind of think Najee Harris is in the mix.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm good. So problematically here, I have a stack built with Stephon Diggs if I go with Josh Allen. I did this last week. I'm gonna get the stack.
Okay.
And then from there, I got it down to Najee, Chris Carson, I think, and Joe Mixon.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna take the game I like the most out of those 3 and just go with Chris Carson for a higher floor.
Okay.
Which I don't typically love for this format, but I do have 3 receivers, so I probably should look for some sort of safety. So I'm gonna go with Chris Carson.
I know last week was bad, but I like him more than the running backs. I'm gonna go Calvin Ridley. I know last week was pretty rough, but I think I just can't turn down his profile.
I'm throwing a slight curveball at the end here.
Okay.
So I need a wide receiver.
Jared Cook. Jared Cook.
Darren Waller?
I'm going with Waller with the last pick. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense. Was that like I know you're not as big of a Steelers fan before, but like a semi-emotional hedge of like, oh, when he shreds the Steelers, at least you can feel good about it?
So here's the thing with Pittsburgh. The scheme over the last 7 years has really played into slot guys doing well, but tight ends can do well too. I mean, a guy like Darren Waller who will line up in that area can do well too. And so I mean, if you want like a deep sleeper on my podcast this week, that's just a very, very safe, not fun.
Hunter Renfrow?
It's Hunter Renfrow. Yeah, it was a very deep play, season-long play. I would never play him in DFS.
So I was sending the thumbnails for this YouTube thing to our video guy, Andy Puente, and Hunter Renfrow, the baseball player, is the thumb here. And he's like, oh, I wish you did a Hunter Renfrow, the football player.
You should have.
And I did a poll of would you rather get hit by a bus or use Hunter Renfrow in DFS? We couldn't, because apparently the Slack is out of you can't vote on polls anymore on Slack. They don't pay for it. So I couldn't vote on it. I tried to vote for the bus, but I couldn't quite do it. For season long, it's different though.
You can't. Yeah, you cannot play Hunter Renfrow in DFS on FanDuel, especially with a half PPR format. But in a PPR format season long, I do think Hunter Renfrow is just like a waiver wire, not rostered in any leagues kind of play. But Darren Waller is going to face that same sort of cushion in defense, and it's the Steelers play a very bend but don't break kind of D. But I think just given, Darren Waller just walked away with a 90% target share this past week, so I'm fine with him in that spot.
So you have the stack of the Dallas Chargers game. You got Dak, Amari, Eckler. Brandon and I agree that was our favorite game to stack on this slate. Are you in the same boat there as well?
Yeah, definitely. And the Eckler thing, all 3 of us were probably not as heavy on him like last week. And just in general entering the season, because, on a site like FanDuel, you want guys who are going to have touchdown equity, but Eckler saw 2 goal line rushes this past week. So he's going to see some work at the goal line this year. We know that he's a good pass catcher, even though he didn't see that target last week. He was doing a show actually with our friend Liz Loza. And he mentioned how last week they used Eckler more in pass protection because of that defensive line matchup and them having some inexperience on the offensive line. They just wanted some protection to make sure that everything was okay. But then he mentioned that he's going to be running more routes this week, essentially. So we're going to see more volume. look, it's Austin Eckler. He didn't see a single target. That's not going to happen week in and week out. So I love Eckler, obviously. I mean, he's only 7K. Love him in this format too. I think he's gonna have a great week.
It's also crazy cool that he like knows fantasy, and we'll talk about
it's amazing.
Like,
yeah, he's the best.
Good for Austin Eckler. That's awesome. Let's go over to Brandon's lineup over here and check out what you've got. You got the Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs stack. You've got no other correlations.
No. I almost went with Zeke just so I'd have more exposure to that Dallas game. I only went with the stack because I feel like even in a 3-entry draft, it
matters. Yeah.
You need some correlation. You need some upside. It's not just a head-to-head. And look, it's a 3-person draft. These are basically just the top of the rankings. There's not a whole lot beyond that. So it does come down to correlation because you need those guys to hit. So I really was thinking about Zeke instead of Chris Carson. But at least I have Carson in that Seattle game against Tennessee that is at least appealing. So, I mean, I feel pretty good with all of the picks, but I just hate that, there's no correlation.
Yeah. And I think for me, that was my dilemma with the Calvin Ridley pick was, do I go with more correlation? Because I think I could have gone with AJ Brown I could have gone with and done that. But I thought that Calvin Ridley just like had just the better role in terms of like what you want to do. I know Atlanta was really weird in week 1. Like they were super run heavy. I wouldn't expect that against Tampa Bay, at least. I think that's a good thing for Ridley. I think it's a good thing for Kyle Pitts in daily fantasy as well. So I think that was why I went with Ridley, but I was happy to get the game stack of the Arizona-Minnesota game with Dalvin and Jefferson, and then Derrick Henry and DK Metcalf in the Seattle-Tennessee game, which means I am guaranteed Tyler Lockett and Adam Thielen go absolutely bananas this week. There is no doubt that'll happen for this one. Okay, so that is our snake draft for week number 2. We'll update the leaderboard next week. Again, JJ is up 1-0 after week number 1. Let's go to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch and take some questions now talking about week number 2, starting off with Raymond over on YouTube. PPR start 1 this week between Laviska Shenault, Sammy Watkins, revenge game. Oh, man. I remember the Tyrod Taylor revenge game, the Andy Dalton revenge game. Totally forgot about Sammy. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Cedric Wilson, or KJ Hamler. And they already have Teddy and Tim Patrick into that situation. So JJ, starting 1 from that group, where are you leaning?
Yeah, I think that the floor play is probably still Shenault, but I don't think I would go that direction. I actually think that I would go with Marquez Valdez-Scantling out of all those guys. He's someone who saw like a 22% target share in that loss last week, saw a lot of air yards. He had 8 targets in that game overall, and we know that this just feels like a get-right game for Green Bay. I mean, would anyone be shocked if Aaron Rodgers has like 6 touchdown passes in this game against Detroit?
No.
Maybe shocked a little bit or surprised, but it's still, I mean, like it's very feasible. And so MVS, I think, is just in a really, really good spot. If he's on your waiver wire, definitely try to pick him up. I'd go for the upside because he brings a little bit more upside than Shenault does, in my opinion. Chenault's fine. He's good. He's got a lot of good after the catch ability. But that offense just in general is just, there's other pass catchers that could steal the show in that game. And it's not a good matchup either. Let's not. And Ronald Darby's banged up, but it's still not a good matchup for that Jacksonville offense. So I'm going to go MVS of that group.
And Raymond, for your team specifically, you're starting Teddy Bridgewater and Tim Patrick. I think those are like lower ceiling plays. Go for the ceiling with MVS. Yeah. I think that adds more to your lineup there too. Let's talk to Darnell on YouTube. He says, half PPR pick 2, please. This is for Brandon. Devontae Smith, Tyson Williams, or Elijah Mitchell. I feel like Devontae is kind of the one guy you lock in. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, that's what I would say.
Okay.
Also, sounds like very active managing to have Tyson Williams and Eli Mitchell. Yeah. That's a tough one. I would probably lean Mitchell, even though he didn't get targeted on his 10 routes. It sounds like Baltimore's okay, and as we should probably just assume from what they've done in years past, they're okay rotating in running backs. It seems like at least with Eli Mitchell, he should have the better workload or the safer, more guaranteed workload. So I'd probably just lean Mitchell, and then you get some correlation there too.
Yeah, I think that that does help as well. Let's talk to Vishnu over on YouTube, and I have my answer for this, and I want to ask you guys if I'm stupid. Vishnu says he has Robert Woods and Deebo Samuel. Would you go with Woods or Samuel and half PPR? This could be the broke brain Jared Goff truther in me saying, oh no, you can't go. Oh, Robert Woods gets super downgraded this year because my brain is broken. I just like Deebo Samuel's role a lot last week. 12 targets in a hyper positive game script, very efficient offense. Game that I like quite a bit. JJ, am I wrong to prefer Samuel between those two by a hair?
No, I think it's fine. I think that this is a question, a lot of these start sit questions are pretty much, like a 50-50, maybe like 55-45 type proposition. I think with this one, it's closer to 50-50 for me. It's a very close, and it's only because of what happened in week one. If week one was a little bit more even, then I would easily go Robert Woods, better game environment too. For Woods, and I wouldn't be surprised if he outscores Deebo here. But I think I'm with you. I think I would probably lean Deebo after him seeing like a 50% target share in the offense in week one.
Also, Van Jefferson's better and ran more routes in week one. Let's just get the hot takes out there because people are too lazy to go back and actually get video. It's easier to find stuff on Twitter. So I'm just going to dump all these hot takes here. Usually those live in Slack, but we're going to air them in the streets because it's Friday. Who cares? DJ is asking, and this goes to Brandon, does Tyson Williams still have value with all the additions to the Ravens, or should I put in a claim for T. Higgins against the Bears? I would say try to drop someone else, first of all, because I want to hold on to Tyson Williams. But Brandon, T. Higgins, why is he on the waivers here? Let's get T. Higgins, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Williams has somewhat of a shelf life, and that could be wrong, but he's going to have to fend off all these other running backs and have Baltimore really give him the 1A role because he's not going to be the one. That's pretty clear. Yeah. So Higgins, even if he's the one, he's going to be the 1B maybe behind Jamar Chase, but they were actually pretty similar workload wise overall, or at least that's what I expect to continue. But it was Chase who cashed in, so. I mean, yeah, I would say try to hold on to Williams and at least give it one more game. Maybe drop someone else, but I would never have any issues picking up T. Higgins.
Yeah, T. Higgins is awesome. Let's go to Ryan on YouTube. Wentz or Tua this week? 6-point passing touchdown. Carson Wentz gets the Rams, which is frightening. Offensive line sounds like some of the guys be able to go, but they're not fully healthy. Tua is facing the Bills, which is also kind of scary. So JJ, I'd like to answer neither, but if you had to pick one between Wentz and Tua, where are you going?
I guess I'm going Tua. I guess. I mean, both of them have but both of them can escape the pocket and run a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna go Tua. I just kind of trust him a little bit more.
I do too. Let's talk to Darnell. And Brandon, this goes back to the Cardinals. We talked about them a bit on Monday. He wants to know Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, or Jamison Crowder the rest of the way. And I think this is interesting. So we're talking about week 2 specifically. I would want Kirk because Kirk had the better role in week 1. But I feel like there is a situation where Rondale Moore eventually carves out a bigger role in this offense because talent sometimes wins, doesn't always, but sometimes it does. So how would you view that one? I don't think Crowder's in this discussion personally because I feel like it's going to be Elijah Moore and Corey Davis. But what are you thinking about that one?
Yeah, I would definitely decide between the two guys on the better offense, the more fantasy-friendly offense. I would say rest of season, it's going to be Rondale Moore, but it might be a little bit of time because he basically ran just under half the routes of AJ Green, who's still showing a pulse.
Is he?
Well, they're throwing it to him.
He's physically on the field. I'm not sure if that it could be a weekend at Bernie situation. We don't know.
He's getting his cardio in.
The issue is that he's still running those routes, and so Rondale Moore's not running as many routes. Kirk. I know it's one game, but when Rondale Moore did run routes, he got targeted at a pretty high rate. So, and look, I love Christian Kirk. I think Jim loves Christian Kirk as well, but we've seen Christian Kirk not really last. I think Rondale Moore would be the best bet for upside here out of the 3. Yeah,
that's the difference between 1 week and season-long stuff. Season-long, I feel more okay gunning for ceiling there. Let's talk to Joseph on YouTube. Flex DeAndre Swift or Jamar Chase? It could be Chase Claypool. I'm assuming it's Jamar Chase, though. JJ, DeAndre Swift in a really tough spot facing Green Bay. Should be a negative script, is good for the passing volume, but you don't expect a lot of points at Detroit in that situation. Jamar Chase facing the Bears. That defense looked a little leaky in week number 1. And I think not a bad spot for the Bengals. Is that enough to bridge the gap between Swift and Chase for this week?
I think if you were in a full PPR league, you could go Chase, but I think half, maybe that tilts it over to Swift a little bit more. I don't love that that Detroit might not score many points in that game, but we're going to probably see a negative script for that offense. We could see a lot of dump offs similar to what we saw last week with the 2. There's this thought in the back of my mind and everyone's mind really where we see Detroit's running backs get targeted so much and then we see Austin Eckler get targeted once or not once really in that game against Washington. We say maybe Anthony Lynn has at least something to do with what's going on with the way they're targeting their running backs out of the backfield. I don't think that's the case for Eckler per se, but I think that could be the case for this scheme. And then you look at the alternatives in that offense, there's really not much. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if we continue to see both those running backs seeing a decently high target share moving forward, especially DeAndre Swift, who we know is electric with the ball in his hands and is a great pass catcher. So I'm going to go with Swift there. And the other thing with the Cincinnati game, I think that this could end up being, not that I'm saying to like fade Jamar Chase or anything like that, especially in DFS given his price tag, but the Bears really got crushed in the slot. And so we could see a little bit more Tyler Boyd involvement this week than what we saw last week. Not that that's going to, again, get you off of Chase, but it is just at least something if you want to use that as sort of a tiebreaker. So I would go Swift over Chase.
Yeah, I think that with Anthony Lynn, I'm shocked that the guy who played running back was a running backs coach for the Jets, was a running backs coach for the Bills, would get his ball to running backs in space. Who could have predicted this? I agree there as well. Nova is saying flex start Julio Jones, Corey Davis, Elijah Mitchell, Jamal Williams, Jacoby Myers for PPR. I like Julio and I like Corey Davis. I feel like personally I'd be leaning them over Elijah Mitchell in full PPR. JJ, where do you lean of those options? I think those are not bad options, honestly, across the board.
I'm going Julio. I just like the game environment more. I think that, it's easy to look at 1 week and overreact to what we saw. And look, there are things, I think that we got another question about Ryan Tannehill, so I can talk about that right now.
Yeah,
but there are things with that offense that I did not like in week 1, namely the fact that he only had 11% of his dropbacks. 11% of his dropbacks seeing a play action with that dropback. Whereas last year they led the league at like 36% or something like that. And play action is one of the main reasons why Ryan Tannehill has been so effective since he became starter for Tennessee. If they continue to run the offense that way, I'm a little bit scared. Yeah. Do I think that they're going to be like completely ineffective the way they were against Arizona? No. Do I think Chester Rogers is going to lead that team in receiving week in and week out? No. But let's just hope that they get a little bit smarter, and that part of the reason why they lacked the play action in week 1 was because their offensive line just could not hold a block. I mean, like everyone's played Madden, and that in Madden, when you run a play action, it's a lot more difficult than seemingly in real life because it just takes so much time, and edge rushers are already on top of your quarterback by the time the play action is over. That's what it was for Tennessee in week 1. Hopefully it's a little bit better against a team that doesn't have the same type of pass rush or isn't necessarily projected to. So I actually don't mind Tannehill this week at all. And I think Julio could have a good bounce back game.
It was that combined with the script, because once you get far enough down, you're letting Chandler Jones pin his ears back and say, no, I don't care about your play action. I'm going to go get Tannehill, which is what he did. So it was a combination of they couldn't block and game script. I think that set it up. Early on, they tried to run play action. They couldn't. So I think that was a factor there. Michael says, thank you for the tip on kickers last night. I heart you, Brandon Gdula. Michael, I do too. I agree. Great stuff.
Thanks, everyone.
Let's talk to Milo. Packers or 49ers defense this week? JJ, Packers are big favorites facing Jared Goff. I feel like this one's pretty easy, right? Packers?
Yeah, let's go Packers.
Okay. Let me see if I can pick any others here. Okay, this one is for Brandon from Bethany. Chris Conley or literally anyone else in PPR. So you can have Christian McCaffrey.
Chris Conley.
Okay. By how much? Like, is this a tier thing?
Like the no-brainer. Honestly, Bethany, I don't think you didn't have to ask that.
Darnell, you'd mentioned that previously that Darnell does a good job on his waivers. Darnell apparently thinks he's too active. Darnell, hard disagree. Well done, sir. Well done. Yeah, you're doing a great job. We wholeheartedly approve. Okay.
I see one about DJ Chark real quick from Joseph. And DJ Chark
scrolled so far past all these.
Well,
I went way too slow. Just talk to me about DJ Chark.
DJ Chark, 7 downfield targets last week. Love DJ Chark's role. They're going to throw the ball a lot this year. And I think for me, Chark is clearly their number one after that first week.
Okay. So I'm going to move to the MLB Q&A, but if you have more football questions, I'm here. I can answer them. Why not? We can bleed that over as well. But Brandon, I appreciate you swinging by. Thank you very much. Good luck to you this week, and we'll talk to you again later on.
Yeah, good luck to you and everything but the snake draft.
That is Brandon Gdula. Find him on Twitter at Gdula13. JJ can be found on Twitter at Late Round QB. JJ, congrats one more time in your week 1 win. Enjoy it while it lasts, and we are coming for you this week. Good luck.
Ready to start 2-0. Thanks, buddy.
All righty. Let's hope not. That is JJ Zachariason again on Twitter at Late Round QB. So let's move now into our MLB DFS Q&A for this week. As always, no matter where you are watching, you can get your questions in for today's MLB DFS Q&A. We'll take them via YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, or Twitter. We talk about this slate. It's a pretty fun one too. Got a full 15 games available for tonight on FanDuel, and I think it's a pretty good slate. So if you got questions about MLB DFS, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll take them live here on air for the next 25 minutes up until 4:55 to get you set for tonight's slate of daily fantasy baseball. There were a couple of changes in terms of starters after we spoke this morning. I didn't know what the Angels were going to do. They're going to go with a bullpen game against the A's. I think that you have leeway to potentially go with the A's in that situation because the Angels bullpen is not one that we need to fear necessarily. So I think that we could go potentially with the A's there. I think there was another one that was a change. Oh, it was Brady Singer going on the IL for the Royals. Facing the Mariners, not the best offense. John Heasley starting, commit from Double-A. Spent the entire year down there. Facing the Mariners, I think that the Mariners are worth considering. 83 degrees temperature there, the highest, tied for the highest in the slate. So I would say Mariners get bumped up. I'm okay with considering them. And then also potentially some A's. Let's start off the questions with DJ over on Facebook asking if Dylan Cease is a must start. I don't say must start, DJ, because there are other guys I do like. I really like Zach Wheeler. I really like Logan Webb, my number one pitcher for tonight. But I also really like Dylan Cease. So to me, DJ, I would say I want one of those 3 guys in most of my lineups, whether it's Wheeler, whether it's Webb, or Cease. I feel like it's a pretty strong case to be made for Brendan. The reason I like Cease personally is not just salary savings. He is $8,600 or $8,400 for today. Let's see. Yeah, $8,600 to Dylan Cease. The reason I like him is I think this specific situation, the specific matchup that he has is a good one for him because Cease's big issues are he still issues too many walks, still gives up too many fly balls, but he's facing a Rangers team that doesn't draw any walks and doesn't hit a lot of fly balls, doesn't hit for a lot of power. So although I'm not going to label him a must start, DJ, I think that he is a good start for today. And, I do think that we have the leeway to go with Dylan Cease, even in, formats where you may not want to be as risky. I'm okay being very risky in single entry because I think you should be because it's still a tournament. Like it's still a top heavy payout structure. So I'm very okay taking a lot of risk there. If you're risk averse in those formats, I still would consider Cease there. So DJ, I do think that Dylan Cease, rock solid option for today. The other pitchers I do like quite a bit for tonight are, as mentioned, Logan Webb and Zach Wheeler. Starting off with Webb, he's facing the Braves. Tough team for sure, but 55 degrees in San Francisco tonight. That's a good thing for Webb. Also a 24% strikeout rate for the Braves, and Webb is a very good pitcher. This is over his past 10 starts with more sinkers. He has a 2.94 skill interactive ERA. Pretty easily the best number on this slate. He has a 27% strikeout rate with a 5% walk rate and also just doesn't let up fly balls. So that's why Logan Webb, to me, is the number one pitcher on this slate. $9,500. I just kind of want to go there. I think that he makes a ton of sense for tonight. The other option to me is Zach Wheeler up at 10-7. Wheeler facing the Mets, so a revenge game. We had the Sammy Watkins revenge game, Tyrod Taylor, Andy Dalton. We get one tonight with Zach Wheeler too. which obviously is the only thing that matters. If you don't care as much as I do about revenge games, then we can talk about the fact that Zack Wheeler is good at baseball. This is over his past 7 starts with fewer sliders. I do worry about these situations when guys aren't using their good breaking pitches. Wheeler's not using his sliders much right now. Could be a concern, but like, who cares, man? He's pitching well. He still has a 3.23 skill interactive ERA in this time, 29% strikeout rate, 5% walk rate. He's got good batted ball data. So to me, it's Webb 1, Wheeler 2, Cease 3. But if you have strong feelings anyway there, I'm not going to push back. I think they're all really good options. The one potential option you could turn to, or could be thinking, hey, why are we not talking about Chris Sale? And DJ asked about Chris Sale over on Facebook. Is Chris Sale still on a pitch count? I think he will be, because Chris Sale has been out the past 10 days. He tested positive for COVID. It was not a close contact situation. He tested positive. It sounds like they knew pretty early on that Sale would be missing roughly the minimum, which is 10 days for the COVID IL, which to me says he wasn't super symptomatic. And I think that bodes well for his pitch count for tonight. But before Sale went on the COVID IL, his pitch counts were still pretty limited. He would go like 5 1/3, something like that, 90 or so pitches. It was pretty inconsistent. Didn't really know what he'd be doing, stuff like that. I think the Orioles are a pretty good team too. So when you combine the length concerns via COVID and via the pitch count for Sale with the fact the Orioles are pretty good and that I have really good alternatives, I am okay not being as high on Chris Sale for tonight. So good question, DJ. I am concerned by pitch count for Chris Sale. Salvatore, which top pitchers are going to be the most popular? I must and have to stack against them. Salvatore, how dare you? You are hurting my teams here because I am going to be using Logan Webb, Wheeler, and Dylan Cease. I think those are the way you want to go. I understand the mindset there in trying to stack against the popular pitchers in order to be different. I would say, though, that on a 15-game slate, you don't need to use suboptimal plays to be different. You can go to less popular stacks and still be different without, targeting pitchers who let up a 21% fly ball rate for Logan Webb, or what's it for Wheeler? It is 32% for Wheeler, but no hard contact against him. So I would try to find different ways to be different, still going at good plays. Let's pull up the implied totals here. Oh, wow. Not logged into numberFire. What a noob. Okay. I'm going to take my screen share down here for a second. I'll do that because I got to log in, which is a rookie move on my part to not be logged in to the site for which I work. Let's do this here so I can get to access to the heat map. Don't tell my bosses. Hopefully JJ turned off the stream after he came off. Okay. Got it back logged in. We'll go back over here and let's check out this heat map for tonight and check out the highest implied totals and try to find some less popular stacks we might be able to turn towards without being suboptimal for tonight. Okay, so Red Sox be very popular, Astros popular, Rays, Brewers, et cetera, those teams are going to grade out pretty highly. Some teams that have lower implied totals that I do think are pretty interesting, I would say the White Sox are interesting, facing Taylor Hearn. He does let up a lot of fly balls and doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. The one concern I have with the White Sox is that Hearn does kind of an okay job of suppressing our contacts. The White Sox, I think, work. I think the Rays work really well against Casey Mize. Mize really struggles with lefties. The Rays have a bunch of those. Haven't seen their lineup yet, but I think the Rays could work there. Cardinals against Vince Velasquez. Velasquez, hyper volatile, making his debut for the Padres for tonight. He really struggled towards the end of his stint there. So I would say these 3 teams are teams you can turn to and stack them without totally, swallowing the chalk. Other potential options, I don't mind the Mariners all that much against Heasley, again, coming up from AA. The one reason I'm not as high on the Mariners is that they don't have video on this guy. Like, they don't tape on him. They can't study him. I think that does matter. We a lot of times see teams flop when they're facing a guy who's kind of like a last-minute start. And Singer didn't go on the IL until today. So I would worry about that with the Mariners. But between the Rays, the White Sox, the Cardinals, and maybe the Mariners, I think you've got some decent stacks you can go to that will be less rostered, but also not stupid for today. Let's talk to Jerry. Jerry on Facebook. How confident are you with a Colorado 3-man stack, 3-man Miami with 2 one-offs with Herman Marquez? A little bit worried about Marquez because he had some funky pitch counts recently, which makes sense because they have nothing to play for. Past 5 from Marquez, 83, 49, 89, 99, and 93. Kind of all over the place. Strikeout rate has been down. He's been using his sinker more. So I'm a little bit worried about Marquez personally, and I will not be using him. So I'd worry about that portion of it. The Rockies are facing Josiah Gray. I think Josiah Gray is a good pitcher. I understand the inclination to go here because he lets up a lot of fly balls, which gives him some massive dinger problems, but also a 24% strikeout rate. So I think there's a path to the Rockies not doing super well in this game. And I think that'd be my concern there as well. The Miami team, I actually don't mind. I think that they're actually interesting. It's Will Crow. I had a question from Pierre on Twitter about them. I think that's actually not too bad. Don't mind it at all. Like Jesus Sanchez, he's in there. Lewin Diaz is in there. Jazz Chisholm's in there. I would say, Jerry, if your 3-player stack in the Marlins is like Chisholm, Sanchez, and Diaz, thumbs up there. I would say that's a good to go. Not as high on Colorado. Some others maybe because of, I think Gray's a talented pitcher. I get it. And I think that there could be some good one-off potential there because of the fly ball rate. And Marquez concerns me with the pitch count, but he's not off the map. So I'd say, Jerry, none of those are cross-offs, but not as into the Marquez due to pitch count concerns, not as into the Rockies because I think Josiah Gray is good and they're kind of not. Salvatore, any love for the Padres? Let's go over here. The Padres are facing Miles Mikolas. Mikolas has struggled. I messed up the formatting here. Let's just do this quick. Let's go over to this and make that a percentage. There we go. Okay. So Mikolas, this is the past 5 starts since he returned. 15% strikeout rate, 5.14 skill interactive ERA. Batted ball data from Mikolas not as good as it was before he hit the IL. Let's check out the game logs here from Mikolas to see what the results look like. Because sometimes with guys like him who traditionally, at least, have good batted ball data, you can see their results differ pretty heavily from what the peripherals say they should be at. So Mikolas, the results here, 4 earned runs, 4, 3, 2, and against some pretty rough teams. So yeah, Salvatore, I think that the Padres definitely do work for today. Not the most powerful offense by any means, but I think it's a decent spot. Don't think that they'll be super popular. Decently warm in St. Louis for today. So yeah, I think that's totally fine. DJ, thoughts on Juwan Johnson for the Saints and then stacking Cincinnati, Miami, Houston, and Milwaukee. DJ, 10 out of 10 for the creativity on that answer. Well done. So for Juwan Johnson, I would not use him this week because I don't think the role is there yet. Didn't run a lot of routes. Didn't get a ton of targets in week number 1. If we're talking like season long, DJ, I want Juwan Johnson on my teams because we can a lot of times see situations where talent wins out. And Juwan Johnson looked good. He played well in week 1. I could see a situation where he gets more volume in that passing game as the year goes along. So if we're talking week 2 specifically, I don't want to use Juwan Johnson, but I still want him on my team because I want to see what that role develops into because I think he's a talented player and I want to, take advantage of that. So good. Well done, DJ, on the creative question there. As far as Dylan Cease is your pitcher and then stacking Miami, Cincinnati, Houston, and or Milwaukee. Cincinnati is facing Walker Buehler. No chance. Absolutely not. Miami is facing Crow. I think that's fine. Houston, I love. They are one of my favorite stacks tonight, facing Madison Bumgarner. Really struggling right now, so I love Houston. I think Milwaukee's pretty good against Zach Davies. Davies been getting better recently. The strikeout rate has started to re-increase for him, back up to 23%, but batted ball data not what it was before. So I think Milwaukee's solid. I like Houston quite a bit. Okay with Miami. Very much not in on Cincinnati against Walker Buehler. Jeremiah, how about the Blue Jays? Where are they ranked tonight as far as stacking goes? So the Blue Jays are facing Michael Pineda. I think Pineda's pretty solid. I had the 2 starts since he came back here, so it's a very small sample. Before Pineda went on the IL, he was pitching decently well. I don't know why the Twins didn't trade him because he is in a free agent year and they're not doing anything this year, so they probably should have traded him, but he's been pitching okay. So let's pull up the game logs here just to make sure I'm not writing out the Blue Jays. Blue Jays, a tremendous offense, and I don't want to overlook them in a spot where they could be less rostered. But yeah, Pineda's pitched pretty well. So I would say I'm not as into the Blue Jays for tonight because Pineda, solid pitcher, but good question for you, Jeremiah, because again, we do want to get the Blue Jays in situations where they're less popular. That could be the case tonight. Just don't feel the matchup personally. Jerry, what about Eliezer Hernandez against Pittsburgh? It's a value pitcher. I think he does well, especially against a strikeout-prone team, Sneaky. So I love Hernandez as a talent. I think he's a really good pitcher. Last year, his advanced numbers were sick. He got so many strikeouts. The reason I will not be going there, because I did look into him, Jerry. I agree. I was like, okay, I like this guy's talent. I like his matchup. I like the park. So I was in. Then I looked at the game logs, and I don't think Miami is going to stretch him out this year, given the injuries he's had, given that there's nothing really to play for. Look here at the game logs for Hernandez. Since he came back, 5 1/3, 4 2/3, 5, 4 2/3. He has not finished 6 since he came back, which basically means you're assuming he's not going to get that quality start bonus. And that's pretty tough for me. So if he were going longer in games, Jerry, I would love him because I think he's really talented. Love the matchup, like you said, love the park. I just don't feel good about the length. That's the drawback there. So if they decide to let him go longer, I'll buy in later, but I'm going to hold off until I see it just because I think that the trajectory of this team says they're probably not going to let him go super long. But it's a good question there, Jerry. And then Jerry says they may stretch him since they have nothing to play for. I think the opposite, actually. We've seen them with Rodgers be a bit shorter as well, so that'd be my concern, that one. Jerry says, everyone get on the Bryce Harper train while he's hot? Yes. Bryce Harper, amazing. I love Bryce Harper. I hate season long. I'm really bad at it. But got this second place trophy because he gets trophy for second in this league too. Got to defend the trophy, and Bryce Harper leading my Byron Buxton Adalberto Mondesi team somehow to second place. So Bryce, keep it up, buddy. Let's go. Nuck if you Buxton, got to win this championship. Very much appreciate that. Let's go, Bryce Harper. Other things we have not discussed. We haven't talked a lot about the teams I really want to stack for today. I mentioned Houston. I think that they are number 2 for me for today. Number 1 was the Boston Red Sox. I don't think I've mentioned the Red Sox at all on this show, probably because they're going to be super popular. They're very high salaried, stuff like that. But I think we can make things work here with a Webb lineup with the Red Sox. Let's see if the Red Sox lineup is out yet. It is not. It appears. Okay, so it's not. Kind of annoying. Anyway, let's check out the projected lineup. I want Dahlbeck in there. Bobby Dongbeck. Bobby Big Fly. Whatever you want to call him. It's taters. Let's go with Renfroe in the outfield. Again, the cover boy here. This Hunter Renfroe, good for DFS. Other Hunter Renfroe, hard pass. Let's go with Kike at second base. Okay, we got 30-40 left to go with any Red Sox we want. Let's go check out the numbers versus lefties this year and see what we're cooking with between Martinez. Obviously, it's lefty and lefty for Devers, but he's good against lefties. 139 ISO, actually a bit lower than I thought it might be. Martinez at 195. Let's go with JD if he's healthy. I know he's been kind of banged up recently. $3,900. I think this works. We got some value elsewhere. So I would say this one's pretty nice from a stack. I know that Aaron just asked about the Red Sox, favorite Red Sox besides Renfroe. I would say Dahlbeck because the salary is low and the dingers are high. So I like Dahlbeck. I like Renfroe, like JD, like Kike. I think those are probably the primary guys I want to go towards. Let's see the other salaries here on the Red Sox to make sure I'm not glossing over anyone who can be a bit of a salary saver here. Devers, or Bogarts, I should say. Salary is actually a bit lower than I thought it was. Let's check out Schwarber too. 120 ISO against lefties for Schwarber. That's annoying. Okay, so I'd say this is probably my favorite one. Bogarts against lefties has a 178 ISO. So yeah, I think this is the best one. Bogarts lower salary than I thought he was, but I still think this is my favorite one for today. Let's talk to Jeremiah. What about Cleveland against Corey Kluber? Kluber revenge game. Corey Kluber has made 3 starts since he returned, and his velocity's been pretty bad. He's still getting strikeouts, but letting up a butt ton of hard contact, 58% hard hit rate, a 47% fly ball rate. I don't think that a Cleveland stack's out of play. They've got the short portion right, so Bobby Bradley, Jose Ramirez can take advantage of that. I don't think that's a bad idea. I would say, Jeremiah, I would label this being risky as a result of the strikeouts Kluber has gotten since he came back. It could just be that he's had some bad luck since he came back, which could lead to a situation we've seen where the results have skewed against him. But I'm okay with Ramirez, okay with Bradley, Zimmer, Bradley and Zimmer, I should say. I'm not just Bradley Zimmer, but with Bobby Bradley and Bradley Zimmer, very difficult situation there. And then Frommiel doesn't get the short portion left, or in the right, but he's still stupid. So I think a 4-player stack of Jose Ramirez, Frommiel Reyes, Bobby Bradley, Bradley Zimmer, that grades out pretty well for me. Totally okay with that one. Michael, do you think the Blue Jays averages against Pineda bring merit to stacking, even though Pineda is pitching well lately? Good question, Michael, because I think we don't talk a lot about BVP here because I don't use BVP personally. The one thing that the reason that I don't tend to evaluate very much is because a lot of it is older data. So we're looking at what George Springer did against Michael Pineda back in like 2016. I don't care about that personally. It's a long time ago. There obviously are situations where a batter just sees a pitcher well. I can't deny that. Like that very much could be true. However, will I be able to predict it? Is BVP the best way to measure that? I'm not sure. So I do think that there is a, merit to the discussion around batters seeing pitchers better. I just don't think I can measure that. I'd also say I wouldn't look at batting averages. I'd look at isolated slugging, look at stuff like that. Look at ISO, look at that, look at strikeout rates. I think that is another thing to look at too, potentially. If a team has like a lower strikeout rate against him and a high ISO, maybe then, but even then it's kind of a stretch for me. So good question, Michael. I'm glad you asked that. But I'd look to strikeout rates, ISO, things that stabilize quickly, and then make sure your sample is really more recent because that would matter more. You're going to get a small sample, but I don't want to see what Pineda did against Springer back in 2016 or whatever. Good question, though. I think that was a good question to ask. Jerry, how do you think the Cleveland and New York game will go? The Yankees strike out a lot, and Cleveland has a good matchup with Kluber, maybe Reyes, Ramirez, and you mentioned Bradley as being the final member of that stack as well. So talked about the Yankees a bit. So we talked about Cleveland, talking about the Yankees facing Zach Plesac. Plesac has been getting a little bit better recently, but still really struggling with hard contact because letting up a 46% hard hit rate, 42% fly ball rate. He's not the Zach Plesac we saw in past years. So I actually don't mind a Yankee stack, Jerry. I think that one could work pretty well. Talked about that this morning where I think some one-offs are in play there for the Yankees, given that Plesac has been letting up hard contact. So I think both those sides could work. I prefer the Yankees side because Kluber's strikeout rate is high, and I'd rather stack the Yankees just from an overall offensive perspective, but both sides are at least options, Jerry. I'd say that. Jerry also says San Diego's in a good spot. Talked to them about them a bit before. I do think that they're in an okay spot, facing off with Nicholas, struggling since he came back. So I do think that is okay as well. Michael said, I did fairly well the other day with Texas, crushed Houston, using the same data. So I was curious how important that data was. Michael, that's a great way to play things. Like if you are trying things out, trying to refine your own process and something works, talk about it, try to decide, okay, is it sustainable? Because it's always possibly someone stumbled on something good. So I'm glad you're asking. Like, that's awesome. Like, and I'm glad you're trying different things because that's what you should do. Experiment with stuff. Try to, decide what your process is. So I think the overall thought process of experimenting with things, trying to figure out your own process, I commend that very much so. That's not one that I use personally, but I do think that the overall thought process of trying things, see what works, identifying if that's something you want to factor in your process long-term, I think that is a great way to play things. DJ, thoughts on Lewin Diaz? Dude hits tanks. I think he's awesome. Facing Crow. Crow's been getting a bit better recently because he's using more sinkers. That is lowering the hard hit rate allowed. I think Diaz is fine as like a one-off. I think Sanchez is good as a one-off as well. Are not good. I'd say they're fine as one-offs if you want to save the salary. I think that Diaz and Sanchez, both options for one-offs, DJ. Lewin Diaz hits taters. Jerry, okay, he's got a Harper home run call with Hunter Renfroe, Sanchez, and then Ryan McMahon, grand slam. Josiah Gray does walk people, and McMahon, I believe, is batting fifth. Let me double check that. Are you calling it in the first inning, Jerry? That could be kind of fun. McMahon batting sixth. So we get let's see here. Let's get a walks from Story and Crone. I'll go with a single from Blackman, walks from Story and Crone, grand slam Ryan McMahon. Let's go with that one. All first inning, just for you, Jerry. Salvatore says, I like the Brewers. I don't mind them. It is a revenge game for Zach Davies. We must note that, first of all. But again, not a big strikeout guy. Strikeouts have been increasing, but not a big strikeout guy. The batted ball data not where it was previously. So I think that the Brewers do work. Jerry says third inning for the grand slam for Ryan McMahon. Okay, so when the third inning rolls around, pull out your MLB at bat app. Make sure you watch Ryan McMahon go deep, specifically a grand slam against Josiah Gray. later on tonight. DJ says, since I am 2-0 in home run calls, I am going Harper, Lewin Diaz, Ji-Man Choi. I didn't talk about the Rays. I do like Ji-Man Choi, though. Salvador Perez. When does he not hit a home run? So good call there, DJ. And then Brandon Belt. Belt's also very good. The Giants facing Ian Anderson. Anderson looked better last time out, but overall, since he came back, it struggled. So I don't think the Giants are totally out of play either. And I think that Belt works there. As far as the Rays go, let's see if their lineup is in, just because I'm curious. I haven't checked it out yet. Okay. We got Lau, Choi, Meadows, Wendell. Ooh, Brett Phillips batting 6th. Brett Phillips batting 7th. Taylor Walls batting 6th. That's interesting because I think that Walls is a pretty talented dude. He'll be batting left-handed versus Casey Mize. Mize really does struggle with lefties. So let's check out Walls here quick. Curious. I'm pretty sure I used Walls earlier on this year at some point when he was up like the first time. 99 plate appearances, 116 ISO. Hit the ball kind of hard. Let's see what he's done since he came back, though. See if I can talk myself into this. Because I could use some salary savers. I do like Phillips a lot. So Phillips is a lock. Definitely using him. Okay, let's go here. And since he came back, we've got like a half month of data. Let's go boop and boop. 19 balls in play. 3 have been hard hit. Kind of disappointing. Let's check out the minor league numbers for Walls after he got sent down. Let's go with boop and boop. If we do that in the minors, only 6 home runs. Not ideal. What was his ISO? It was 240. So he hits for some power at least, but not a lot since he came back up. I think Walls is okay, but I prefer Phillips, prefer Choi as being my value options. Michael likes the Rays. I like the Rays. Let's go. Brett Phillips, home run call for today. I think that he is going deep. Batting 7th, but he's great. So we'll go with Brett Phillips. That is all that we have here for today on the FanDuel Live Q&A. We are back once again next week on Monday. We're going to have a Monday Football preview with Ryan Williams and Jessica Gridiron making her her Q&A debut. They'll be here at 4 p.m. on Monday, breaking down Monday Night Football with the Packers and the Lions. I'll be on at 4:30 to talk MLB DFS. So make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. Hit us up on Monday, 4 p.m. for NFL, and MLB will be at 4:30. Big thank you once again to Brandon Gdula and JJ Zachariason for doing the snake draft earlier on. We had the Heat Check podcast, myself and Brandon yesterday. Find that by searching for the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. Find all of JJ's great work by searching for the Late Round Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. If you've got more questions for me, I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. Big thank you to Joy Affleck, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Joy, as always. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Good luck to you tonight. Enjoy the baseball tonight. Enjoy week 2 of NFL. Enjoy the Bristol night race, importantly. Coming up tomorrow night, we'll talk to you all again on Monday. This has been the FanDuel Live Q&A.